Ah, okay. Get pretty up. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Ni hao. Buenos dias. Seseche. Aquaba. Welcome. What up, though? This is Cafe Melange. Week numero ocho, session numero dos, live streaming. So, whatever. That's not meant to be a tag, whatever. It's just what it is. So, I'll get into it. It's not even that past the hour at the moment. It's only 12 minutos. So get into it. I basically got one joint to share, which is a combination of joints. It goes somewhere, so I got to remember where it goes. Right. Uh, eh, so on this topic of mélanger, it goes the destination of this joint, the intermediate destination of this joint is honoring our ancestors, honoring your ancestors, and honoring our ancestors. Full stop. So here's how it goes. I read that story a week ago on Peter Holt Davies, the Minotaur, and I mentioned that one of the challenges of his criticism about his Moor. Come to think about it, he didn't criticize this far for being absent. Too tough. He criticized the stepfather. But anyways, that's other than the main point. The point is, I mentioned on that session the importance of honoring our parents, honoring our far, honoring our more, regardless of what they've done, what they've said, what they've decided, how they treat themselves, how they treat us, and additionally, honoring, having a basic respect. Now we can disagree and call out, and we can distance and all that other stuff, but always having a basic respect for our own sake, for our own benefit. This is what the ancients tell us. This is what our prophets tell us. This is what our ancestors tell us. This is what wisdom tells us. So, I'll give you an example. How about this? For a personal experience, I talked again previous session or previous week, the sessions about being locked up, psych ward, this, that, and the other, kitchen hell, and then the experience of transcendent mélanger, and additionally. So it's not, again, like I said before, it ain't pretty, and I don't think I'm sugarcoating it, but I like it's hellish, literally hellish. It is hell, because um, here's the further details about the situation, and there's a point to this as well. Why I'm sharing all this. So I was in my bonus semester of law school, getting ready to graduate. The multicultural joint was not getting off the ground. And I could see writing on the wall. I could see like I was about to catch hell because, again, there was hysteria, there was paranoia within society amongst like cats who were supposed to be cool and level-headed. Even in law school, cats were hysterical. Literally, I'm serious. And beside themselves, not knowing how to act, not being rational. And I'm like, whoa, wow! If cats like this in these hallways are being like this, whoa, that don't bode well for society. And simultaneously, there's a lot of angry, a lot of vitriol, a lot of hostility, a lot of hatred, and wanting to commit violence, getting ready for war, literally. And I wasn't on board, and it was that us versus them mentality. And I'm like, yo, I'm not with the us, U.S. So again, do the mathematics. So, anyways, I say all that because I knew I was about to. To be serious, to be honest, I knew I was going to die. At that moment, nearly 20 years ago, I knew I was going to die because I just there were lots of there was a lot of crazy there's a lot of crazy shiznit. I'm being somewhat muted in my profanity today. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, particularly in the capital. I mean, there was, like I said, the 11th of September happens, towers fall, planes crash, uh, buildings are demolished, um, demolitioned. People die, people are hysterical, and people are bloodthirsty. Simultaneously, there's a cat going around the Potomac area snipering cats, assassin, an ex-military dude being a sniper and killing cats. There was a literally like there were birds around the city. You can look it up. There were birds like dying, just falling out of the trees and dying in this epidemic. Cats were sending um, poison in the mail to the Congress, and additionally, so there was a lot of crazy stuff happening. And I knew I could see when I looked at the hatred, and I had already gotten locked up. I had already gotten beat down by the police and charged with a federal felony assault, 25 years penalty. Um, so I know cats were like they weren't holding punches. Cats were playing for keeps. Cats were going out for blood. And in that vitriol, and that was before the 11th of September. That was before that. So then afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, again, it's the us for them, us or them. And I'm like, yo, I'm not rolling with you. So I knew I was about to catch hell, particularly because I was deep in the game. I was deep in the game. Still am actually. But when cats eat off the table, they got to pay for it. So when I graduate and cats weren't about that kumbaya, I knew I was about to catch hell because I wasn't going to sign up for the war and the vitriol and the hatred. So I knew I was headed out. I knew it was coming to me, and so I say all that because I actually broke up with my girlfriend at that moment because I didn't want her to catch what I was about to catch. And so I came back home, and my mother, I go back to our family house and she's the proprietor, she's the matriarch of the house. At that point, my father lives in a different house, and so she and I would get into arguments. And I said like, and I wasn't trying to be like antagonistic. I wasn't trying to be. I did have a lot of anger, to be honest, but because I was so quiet for so many years and like took a lot of BS, and then was called upon to like be hateful, to forget about the BS, the hate, the oppression, and the wrongs that were committed to me and against my people, and then to be hateful and want vengeance and revenge and blood for the things that were done to my additional people. So by that I mean the people who are oppressed in this land. Forget about that. Don't worry about that. Bygones, let it be bygones. But then when something happens to mainstream society, oh, let's get out for blood, revenge. I'm like, no. Well, you just told me all this. I studied a law that says this and the other for 3+ years. Now you want me to like get on board with it? Nah. So, anyways, again, it's my point there is saying that my moral is enveloped in mainstream society, and so her perspective and her viewpoint are very much along those lines. So I did have a lot of anger because I gave the law a benefit of the doubt. I studied it and I graduated with a degree with it, and was told subtly and directly, just be quiet, just get along, this and the other, and um, then I was began blacklisted, ostracized for not getting on board the hate train. So, anyways, I was angry. Now I wasn't looking to get out. I wasn't looking to rebel or anything else like that. But I was very frustrated. I was young, somewhat unlearned in terms of spirituality and spiritual discipline. And I was angry. So, anyways, I took that out on my war. And it wasn't. It was just a matter of like we would get into arguments, and I was very frustrated with her perspective and her mentality, and the obtusity of mainstream and her involvement within that of recognizing the BS. And that was very frustrating. And so I said to her at that point, anytime you want me to leave, I'll be gone. Just say the word, I'm out. And to a certain extent, I could have been a man, just do it myself and taking that note. But I knew that if doing that, that would be like not seeing my family again. So, anyways, that's where I stand. I say all that because amidst that, unbeknownst to me directly, explicitly, um, she was having conversations with people, and people were having conversations with her about me, right? And the concerns about me. Oh, we're concerned about what people might do to him. We're concerned what he might do, this, that, and the other. And so all those conversations precipitate into me being locked up in a psych ward. Um, and the way it's done, all right, the way it's done is getting a record, taking notes about everything the person does, right? All the questionable things. He said today. He said this. Keeping basically a journal of everything the person does. He did this. They did that. This, that, and the other. And then talking with people who know how to like facilitate these things, psychiatrists, and additionally who have a very vested interest in signing people on board, new recruits into the psych ward, and additionally. And then when there's enough of a record, and like the horses aligned, or the rows aligned, or the ducks aligned, however you like, whatever animal you like, the people aligned, then it's taken to a court. The judge issues an order to have the individual locked against their will in a psych ward for a certain period of time, up to 30 days until the evaluation is done. And then, based upon the opinion of the psychiatrist or the psychiatric board, then it's a matter of determining what happens to the person additionally. Now, the whole while, it's a matter of whether the person is going to be cooperative, or are you going to come with us voluntarily. It's going to be better for you if you do. Otherwise, we're going to have to take you by force. And then when the detainment is done, then it's a matter of are you going to cooperate with taking these drugs, or is it going to I'm going to stop, get out of that second person. So the person is asked whether the person will voluntarily take the psychiatric drugs, um, just out the blue, or is it going to be a forced situation? And then if the person refuses, it doesn't cooperate, he's being uncooperative. That's a symptom. See, that's evidence. See, got to do it. Then it's forced, and now I don't wish that on anybody. But when it becomes a forced situation, then one people's often, particularly untrained people's natural reaction, instinctive reaction, is to fight back. Yo, when the cat's coming in and trying to inject somebody with medicine, drugs, yo, that's self-defense. No, stop. And that's what I did. Oh, look, he's being combative. He's being violent. Oh, we're concerned about that. And so the reaction is utilized against the individual. So, anyways, it's a heinous, hellish thing. It's nasty. But there's a power greater than that. There's a truth greater than that. There's a discipline greater than that. But I say all this because it requires the buy-in of a loved one, particularly a parent, somebody who has some type of authoritarian role in an individual's life, so that there's a certain semblance of credibility. It's not just a matter of the government coming in and doing it on the government's own, although there are situations of that. It's a matter of it's the parent, and so it's increasingly difficult for outsiders to argue against that when it's the parent doing, and it's increasingly difficult for the dude to argue against that when it's the parent saying, "Yo, it's my parent. How can I argue with that?" So, yo, we've had disagreements before, but yo, this is tripped out. So how you doing? All right. So that's the significant challenge, and that's the challenge that I experienced because I knew this. It was unrealistic. I knew it's actually very ironic. I said before, like, I knew I was going to die, and actually when that first day when I got locked up, the police at the door, yo, Peter, we're about to take you. Uh, I was like, oh, here it is. Here we go. Here it comes. And so I knew I was going to die. But simultaneously, when it actually happened, when it went down, like I got locked up in the psych, I was like, yeah, this is unreal. Like this is like a practical joke. This is insane. Um, somebody's doing a punk routine or something else like that. But I'm like, this is not funny though. They went overboard. um, and that's what it was like, because it was like, as it kept on going. Um, uh, yeah, I'm getting a little bit further in detail, and I got to wrap up in about soon. But anyways, this is all purposeful. But it's unreal, and as it keeps on going, as it continues to unfold, like the psychiatrists come in and start asking questions, and it's like insane questions. Have you ever they ask a person if a person's ever thought of hurting themselves, if they had heard any voices and things like that, and so it's like, no, 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 you're the one who's talking about that. Where'd you get all this stuff from? And it's insulting, and it basically, it's like being in high school, and like all the cool kids or the bully kids decide to pick on somebody who's different from everybody else, and they like collude with each other, saying, okay, you guys, nobody talk to that person, or everybody just talk about that person's ugly parents, and that's it, but say in a condescending, indirect way where they can't like directly come back at us. And so it's like that kind of collusion, of everybody doing that. And so the nurses in the psych ward, the attendants, the psychiatrists, the social workers, everybody's like, treats a person like they're basically retarded, like they don't know how to think, and that they're like they're a child, like a grown adult who has the mentality of like a 2-year old, so it's very condescending. It's very genteel. Oh, so if you speak it aggressively towards it, then one looks increasingly out of order. But it's very disrespectful. It's very condescending. It's demeaning. It's dehumanizing, um, and it's colluded. It's like everybody is on board, and I'm like, how do you think you can get away with this? How do you think you can like do this to like not just me, but like to anybody? I just and again, I had pride and anger, and like, I just graduated from law school. Who do you think you are doing this to me, this and the other? Like, what do you mean? What do you? How can you rationalize in your own mind what you're saying? And it becomes obvious, like in many cases, like people don't believe like a diagnosis, but there's like that blue wall that police do of like, once it's done, that's like we rally around that. We don't disagree with that in terms of the psychiatrist. So it was just preposterous. It was just like, again, crazy for the people to think that they could do what they were doing and think it was like actually rational and like thing. But like after it kept on going, like, yo, these cats are serious. Yo, they're not letting it go. They're not saying like, oh, my bad, we were wrong. They're like holding on to it. I'm like, yo, what? And again, my Moore is doing it. Like, my Moore is in it. I'm like, what? And then the thing that tipped me off, like I knew what was going on, is that my FAR was doing it. Haha. And my FAR is a no game kind of dude. I want to use some choice words to describe the kind of dude he is, but kind of man he is. But he's a no bullshit kind of dude. There goes the profanity. And so he wasn't saying anything. He wasn't saying um, like he wasn't talking about me being crazy, this and the other. He actually, before it happened, he came to me, and it's like, yo, they're gonna think you're crazy, because I was talking about black nationalism and this, that, and the other amidst the 9/11 stuff. And so he's like, yo, they're gonna think you like. And that was the first time I was like, whoa, you coming at you saying like to me? Wow, it must be serious. So that's the strongest kind of comment he made to me. Otherwise, he was just kind of quiet. He was kind of like at a distance. But the fact that he didn't come to my and get my back, and like, yo, you're not doing that to my son. I knew, haha, things are serious, and I knew that there was pressures put on my family to do what was done, and to continue doing what is done. And so I knew it was serious. And again, I said before, like, I thought I was gonna die. So why wouldn't I think that like people would, well, like, organize? But it's one thing to take a cat out. It's another thing to like organize a long term kind of suppression and oppression of an individual. Um, because, well, anyways, it's part of the discrediting of what the person knows, what the person says, and additionally. So, anyways, but because my father didn't have my back tough like that, and basically signed on board to me getting locked up, I said, all right, I see what's going on. I see like the elements going on. Now, my point for all that, and that continues on for a number of years. It actually continues through today. Um, but my father passes a few years after that, so may rest in peace, blessings be with him. But I say all that because it's extremely frustrating when my Moore is talking about, and continues to talk about, mental illness. It's not crazy, and it's not your fault. Um, it's just a matter of It's a biological disorder. It's a chemical imbalance. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. All you have to do is, haha, comply. So that kind of trope was nothing new. My Moore is a very genteel kind of woman. Um, all through my life, she basically, whenever I had a disagreement with somebody, she'd always say, "Think about the other person's side." And that's what actually it was. That's not what a 12-year-old wants to hear when a teacher's tripping or if a bully's tripping or whatever else. I want somebody to have my back, but my Moore never does that. She always says, "Think about the other person. Think about the other side. What are you doing to the situation?" And so eventually, after hearing that for so many years, that strengthens my intellect, that strengthens my empathy. And that is actually what provides me the, the tools to go to law school and to graduate from law school, to have that type of honesty and tenacious kind of truthfulness. So um, I was always accustomed to her not being immediately supportive, not directly supportive. But for her to like be complicit and cooperate with the things that were done to me, it's very easy to be angry. It's very easy to be, and I was for a while. It's very easy to be hateful and want revenge and this and the other, and blame and criticize and lambast and additionally. And actually, here's the things that put me on my place early on, even though I still had to learn a little bit further after that. But at one point, I was like telling her, like, "Yo, when you do this to me, and you listen to the people around you, who tell you to do this to me, yo, you're calling me a nigger, and they're calling you a nigger lover." And I was trying to I wanted her to feel my pain. I wanted her to see what she was doing to me, and like serious, because that's what it was. That's just a part of what it was. But she immediately said, "They've already done that. Like she's lived a life like that, being called nigger lover." And I was like, "Aha, yeah. Let me. Why am I trying to hurt my more?" Now, um, again, we want people to understand the pain that we perceive them causing, but simultaneously, we don't want to cause pain. Um, and the thing about our parents, as Peter Ho Davies describes, um, uh, the criticism, and additionally, it's easy for our parents. Our parents are easy targets for criticism because society is in so many ways outcast, and additionally, um, so oftentimes the spoiled brat kind of sees that, oh, I can, if I criticize my parents, if I lambast this and the other, I get a guilty conscience on my parents, and now I can parlay that for gifts or this, that, and the other. I can manipulate that. I can utilize that as leverage. And that might work for a while, depending on the pockets and additionally what the parents have. But again, honor our parents, respect our parents. We don't always have to agree. We can call out BS, but doing it in a respectful way. And so that's a lesson that I learned in my spiritual path. But recognizing that our parents are our immediate link to our ancestry, our ancestors, and that's part of our path, our heritage, our ancestral path towards infinity, the eternal, to God, and our connection with the universe. And so our relationship with our parents and our relationship with our ancestors very much guides and affects our experience within this realm. So even just in a very personal, selfish kind of self-motivated kind of way, honor our parents, honor our ancestors, and again, we can disagree, we can call things out, but doing it in a respectful way, and doing it in a way that fits within something within a greater deference towards those who provide for us, those who lead the way, and additionally. And you say, yeah, my parents ain't never provide me for nothing. Well, yes and no. It maybe not as much as you like, but parents provide something. Even the child who emerges from a heinous rape or whatever else, there's something. And if we are dissatisfied with our first generation of parents, go to the next generation before that, or the next generation before that. Um, we come from a lineage, and so it's important for us as we to be balanced and strengthened in our lives at this moment in this life today and continuing. It is we have to have a foundation. We have to have relationship. We have to have um, a certain amount of structure to appreciate the nature of things, to appreciate the harmony of things and how we fit within it, and to be have a keen awareness of the things that are greater than ourselves, and but also in recognizing the thing that is greater than ourselves, our relationship with that thing. So I'm speaking a lot of abstraction, but my point is just to honor our parents, honor our ancestors, and additionally on this joint, there's so much within contemporary society that, and particularly pop culture, that dissuades individuals from knowing their ancestors and knowing their heritage. In addition, that includes myself because I'm enveloped in pop culture when I'm growing up, and even today, less so, but even through today, particularly because in socializing with others, there's calling upon pop culture references. My point is that it's like fast. I've said this before. Fast food. It's like candy, salt, sugar, fat. Tastes nice, pretty people, interesting twists, story plots, special effects, additionally, but it's not telling us significantly about ourselves. It's not healthy for our intellect, our psyche, our mental. Um, when we know our own stories from our own heritage, and when we know the nurturing, the nourishing stories from other heritages. Oh, now that's rich. That's nice food. That's healthy food. That's soul food. um, and that strengthens us because then we become, and when we learn to tell our own stories, I do have some stories, maybe that'll be for another day. When we tell our own stories, now we're increasingly independent. We own our own shit, and we can share it, and build from it, grow from it. So our ancestors, part of honoring our ancestors is knowing who our ancestors are, the names, as much as we can go back, um, knowing the names of our ancestors, knowing where our ancestors are from, what land, what tribe, what language, what tradition, what culture, what religion and spirituality, what occupation, what are the stories, how did our forebears get to where I am today, um, and when we have that, we have a greater sense of peace, and we're able to build stronger connections and relationships with others, particularly when others have that same knowledge. And we can feel comfortable talking about our families, talking about our ancestors. It's not some kind of secret of either shame or trepidation about what people are trying to steal or this, that, and the other. There's increased security because you can't take it away. When you got it, you got it. So uh, there's so much of ourselves that we give up in pop culture, but also at university, and additionally to study to become a high skilled, high paid laborer. There's a lot of ourselves that we exchange in that process, to again learn the ideas of those who are different from us, and not necessarily who care the most about us, and our the way in which we value things and value ourselves becomes, the balance of that shifts accordingly as well. So it's beneficial to be mindful of that. It's necessary to be mindful of that. It's healthy to be mindful of that, and to be proactive in strengthening the knowledge of self, our stories, our names, our culture, our traditions, um, as we proceed in those studies and in occupations and in society, and with popular culture. Here's the kicker with this joint. Um, so the tactic of divorcing a person from their ancestry and their heritage is a class textbook methodology of oppression. Because when a person doesn't have a knowledge of self, then the way they value themselves is by what the oppressor, the masser, can provide, whether it's a job, whether it's money, whether it's clothing, whether it's a house, whether it's a wife. Or additionally, when a person doesn't have a knowledge of self, it's easy to manipulate that person. It's easier to oppress that person. So, oh, watch this movie. It's got this, that, and the other. Oh, do this, do that. Oh, now you don't know about yourself. Ah, well, I guess you got to watch another movie then. Here, the price is this. Um, again, I'm watching that second person. I'm doing that again. So, anyways, when a person has a knowledge of self, the language that their ancestors speak, um, uh, the stories, and additionally, ho ho, That's strength, that's power, that's rich, that's healthy, that's holy. Um, so I say that because um, as powerful as the United States is, in the context of Mélanger, this is what I'm sharing, as powerful as the United States is, or seems to be, if it seems to be at all, actually, um, and as this is a little bit specific to the U.S. example, but this is applicable additionally. But we're often confronted with that notion of assimilation, of letting go of our respective heritage and our heritages, and additionally, in order to be mainstream, and to assimilate within the mainstream culture. And it seems so daunting. It seems so like ominous and inevitable. Here's a consideration when we're making those mathematics, when we're making those calculating that balance and the decision and the leverage accordingly. So the consideration is that I, the consideration is that the United States needs Mélanger. Mélanger does not need the United States. Um, and the fact of the matter is that um, to my knowledge, there is no member state of the United Nations in the Western Hemisphere that is predicated upon a premise of homogeneity. Every nation in the Western Hemisphere is predicated upon some experience of diversity, intrinsically as a settler society, and as a settler society that wants to compete in the global sphere. Every nation, every member state of the United Nations based in the Western Hemisphere relies upon diversity, multiculturalism. Multiculturalism and diversity and mélanger does not rely, does not need, does not depend upon, I, I, does not depend upon the United States or any other nation in the Western Hemisphere. And so that's something to consider when one is considering the balance of power and the leverage accordingly. Again, it can seem, yeah, that's what you say theoretically and conceptually, but that's big picture, this, that, and the other. It ain't. Connect the dots. I invite you to connect the dots. Um, and you can think 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, as Malcolm X said this effectively. I'm paraphrasing and applying to this context, but 100 years from now, where do you think the United States is going to be? 1,000 years from now, where do you think the United States is going to be? Where do you think Mélanger is going to be? Uh, it's a matter of understanding the limitations. Nations don't have a, nations have a very comparatively short uh, uh, lifespan um, on this earth, typically, historically speaking, civilizationally. And it may seem behemoth and unstoppable in the moment, but it's also a matter of recognizing the context and the nature of things, the ebbs and flows, the rise and falls. And again, I'm not wishing this on it. I'm just saying what the nature is. And so it's beneficial to be mindful of that when one is considering how much one gives of oneself, how much one relinquishes of oneself in order to fit in a mainstream that is continually shifting and increasingly predatory and additionally. So there are those concerns. But just recognize the value within oneself, the knowledge of oneself. And that comes with recognizing our ancestors, and that comes with honoring our parents, respecting our parents, and knowing about ourselves, this universe, and our relationship, our connection herein. So I leave it at that. That's the joint. And I'm raw. Running off. I guess that's what raw means. Running off. Here it is. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Zajen. Adios. Te shakuris. Esempe na asamudu. Kele Wilfred. I love and peace.